You are one small move from the entire day. Not a leap, not a transformation. One motion smaller than you think it should be. The blanket pushed back. One foot on the floor. The cap off the pen. And yet here you are, still horizontal, waiting for the thing that never comes first. The feeling of being ready, the surge of will that is supposed to carry you up and into the work. This is about how starting actually works. Not the way the motivational posters say, in a blaze of resolve, but the way it has always worked for the people who reliably do the hard thing. They did not get larger than the resistance. They made the first step so small the resistance had nothing to push against. We have the size of beginnings completely wrong. We picture the start as the biggest, most heroic part, the moment you summon enough force to overcome everything at once. So we wait to feel strong enough. And because that feeling rarely arrives on the mornings that matter, we stay still, mistaking the absence of momentum for the absence of readiness. The oldest book on the subject says the opposite, and it says it in a single image. In the Tao Te Ching, in James Legg's century-old translation, Lao Tzu writes, "The tree which fills the arms grew from the tiniest sprout. The tower of 9 stories rose from a small heap of earth. The journey of 1,000 li commenced with a single step." Read it slowly. The enormous tree was once a sprout you could crush between 2 fingers. The tower that takes your breath began as one basket of dirt. And the journey that crosses 1,000 miles did not begin with 1,000 miles. It began with a step so ordinary no one would think to celebrate it. That is not a poem about patience. It is a precise instruction about scale. The reason you cannot start is that you are imagining the tower, not the heap of earth. You are trying to lift the whole 1,000 miles with your first motion, and of course you cannot. So you do nothing. The modern voices have only confirmed the ancient one. Mel Robbins noticed that there's a narrow window, a few seconds at most, between the instinct to act and the brain's machinery for talking you out of it. Hesitate, and the mind floods the gap with reasons, with comfort, with later. So she shrank the start to almost nothing. A silent count, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and on 1 you move before the argument can even begin. The point is not the number. The point is that the start became too small and too fast for resistance to get a grip. The behavior scientist B.J. Fogg spent years at Stanford watching why people fail to change, and he found the same culprit every time. They aim too big. They try to begin with the tower. So he built his whole method on the opposite move. Make the first action so small, it would be absurd to fail. Not 30 minutes of exercise, but 2 push-ups. Not the whole report, but 1 sentence. Anchor that tiny thing to something you already do and let it grow on its own. He found that a behavior small enough to survive a bad morning is the only kind that ever becomes permanent. So look at what these 3 are saying across 25 centuries. Lao Tzu, Robbins, Fogg, a Taoist sage, and 2 modern researchers, all pointing at the same quiet truth. The start is not where you need to be strong. It is where you need to be small. The strength is not the price of admission to the work. It is what the work pays you after you have already begun. So stop measuring this morning against the tower. The thing you are avoiding feels enormous because you are holding all of it at once. The whole project, the whole habit, the whole distance, pressed into a single moment that has not happened yet. No one could lift that. You're not weak for failing to. You're simply trying to start the wrong size. Find a heap of earth instead. The 1 sentence, the single rep, the page opened, the shoe tied, the first cold splash of water on your face. Make it so small that the part of you looking for an excuse cannot find one, because there is nothing there big enough to be afraid of. You are not lowering your standards. You are locating the actual entrance, which was never the grand front gate you kept staring at. It was the small side door that was open the whole time. And here is the relief hidden in it. You do not have to run the whole day. You only have to make the one small move and let the move do to you what no amount of waiting ever could. Motion is what generates motivation, not the other way around. The step comes first. The feeling of being someone who took it comes second, and it comes reliably every single time. So begin at the only size that actually works. I start before I feel ready, because the feeling follows the motion and never leads it. I make the first step so small that resistance has nothing to push against. I aim at the single sentence, the single rep, the heap of earth, not the finished tower. I move inside the narrow window before my mind can fill it with reasons to wait. I anchor the small beginning to something I already do and let it grow on its own. I trust that the 1,000 miles will take care of itself once the single step is taken. I treat starting not as the heroic part, but as the smallest part, and I do it now. That is the morning, not a transformation. One small move, made before you felt like it, that turns out to be the whole beginning. So make it now, while the day is still a sprout and not yet a tower. And if this got you moving, stay with this channel, where every morning is a call to begin at the right size. Then come back tonight for the other half of the same honesty, because just as the day begins smaller than you think, it also ends more unfinished than you would like, and that is not failure either. In tonight's reflection, the writer Oliver Burkeman on why you were never going to finish it all, the Stoic Epictetus on sorting what was ever yours to control, and the poet Wendell Berry on the kind of peace you do not have to earn. The morning is for the first step. The night is for laying down the steps you did not get to. Begin disciplined. End reflective. Now move.